Imagine opening your eyes one ordinary morning and realizing the ideas that once held your life together, your beliefs, your goals, your sense of where you're headed, now feel strangely thin, like a poster left too long in the sun. You try to reach for certainty, but your hand closes on air. You wonder whether anything you do truly matters, whether meaning itself might be something we've invented to keep ourselves calm. That chill at the edge of your thoughts has a name, and though the word can sound abstract, the experience is not. It's nihilism, the suspicion that life has no built-in purpose, and few thinkers mapped its arrival as clearly as Friedrich Nietzsche. He didn't just predict the storm, he stepped into it and tried to show us the way through. Today, we'll walk into that question with him. Not as tourists admiring a dark landscape from a distance, but as people living in it, breathing it, and trying to make sense of our time. Why is nihilism spreading in the modern world? What did Nietzsche mean when he wrote, "God is dead"? And if the foundations we inherited are cracking, what comes next? Collapse or creation? Stay with me to the end, because the last idea we'll explore has the power to change how you read your past and how you choose your next step. It's not a trick or a slogan, it's a challenge, one that can turn your life from something you endure into something you compose. Before we dive deep, take a second to support this channel, subscribe, tap like, and share your reflections in the comments. You'll help more people find ideas that actually ask something of us. In return, I'll promise you this. If you stay open, something in what follows will shift how you see yourself and the world we're building together. Let's set the stage plainly. Nihilism, at its core, is the belief that life lacks inherent meaning, value, or purpose. That doesn't mean it's only gloom or melodrama. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it looks like numbness. For centuries, people leaned on religion, tradition, and shared stories to anchor their choices. These frameworks told us who we were, how to tell right from wrong, and where our lives fit inside a larger arc. Then, over time, the authority of those frameworks weakened. The Enlightenment privileged reason and evidence over revelation. Industry rearranged our routines and our communities. Science explained more and more of what used to be chalked up to mystery. None of this is bad news in itself, but it does move the center of gravity. Nietzsche saw it happening with a kind of fierce honesty. When he wrote that God is dead, he wasn't celebrating vandalism against faith. He was diagnosing a cultural event, the slow, steady erosion of belief as the unquestioned foundation of life in the West. He heard the timbers of an old house creaking, and he wanted us to face what would happen when the house finally leaned too far. Without a shared story about who we are and why we're here, we would be left with a blank sky. And most of us, he suspected, weren't prepared to look up for long. Listen to the air around you. If you're honest, can't you feel the emptiness Nietzsche warned about? Institutions that once commanded trust now meet skepticism by default. Religious influence has receded in many places. Community ties loosen under the pressure of mobility, screens, and a culture built around the individual. Consumerism suggests we can substitute meaning with ownership, and social media swallows our attention with endless noise, leaving behind a strangely hollow aftertaste. This is the world Nietzsche heard approaching, a world where old values falter before new ones have been forged, where our anchors lift and we drift. When the grand narratives break, religious, political, even familial, people are left staring into a space that feels both free and terrifying. Human beings need orientation, and when no one hands it to us, we improvise. Some people slide into despair, some grow cynical, laughing at everything so nothing can touch them. Some go numb. We see this not only in headlines and statistics, but in the texture of everyday life. Rising burnout, a hunger for distraction, a chronic fear of missing out on something that never quite arrives. The emptiness is real, But Nietzsche didn't think emptiness had the last word. He believed the collapse of inherited certainty, as frightening as it is, could also be a doorway. If the old gods no longer orient us, perhaps that's because it's our turn to build. Nietzsche imagined a figure, the Übermensch, often translated as the overman, not as a tyrant or a superhero, but as a human who refuses to be crushed by the absence of ready-made meaning. The overman is someone who creates values rather than borrowing them, who looks at the raw material of existence and shapes it into something life-affirming. He didn't just forecast nihilism, he dared us to move through it, to rise above it, to become more than spectators of our own doubt. Pause and check in with yourself. What actually gives your life weight? Is it faith, love, craft, friendship, family, service, beauty? Is it a calling you haven't named yet but feel pulling at you anyway? If you're willing, write a line about it in the comments. Someone else might need to hear the exact thing you have to say. Nihilism isn't only a philosophy lecture, it's the story of anyone who has stared at a night sky and felt both wonder and insignificance in the same breath. It's the story of a society losing the myth that once gave it a steady beat, and of individuals trying to find a new rhythm together. Nietzsche's gift was to name the storm and then turn to us with a question we couldn't dodge. Now that you see the clouds, what will you do with the rain? Walk with me into a familiar scene. It's late. A city glows, neon signs hum. Traffic sighs through intersections. Music leaks from doorways. You can feel life happening everywhere, and yet there's a quiet vacancy underneath it all, like a theatre after the actors have bowed. People hunch over their phones, snacking on short clips, chasing likes, using the tiny bursts of attention as a kind of anesthesia. It's not an accident. It's a way of coping with a missing centre. When everything becomes a distraction, distraction becomes a lifestyle, and the inner life atrophies from neglect. A strange ache sets in. We're busy, but we're not fed. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived the camps and later wrote Man's Search for Meaning, once noted that those who have a why to live can bear almost any how. But what happens when a culture fails to offer a shared why? When life is collapsed into comfort, survival, and consumption, we drift into what Frankl called the existential vacuum, an inner emptiness nothing external can fill for long. The symptoms are everywhere: status anxiety, an obsession with metrics and validation, an addiction to hustle followed by waves of exhaustion. None of this is random. It's the nervous system of a world trying to replace depth with novelty. Nietzsche warned that when old gods fall, new idols rush in. Fame, power, endless appetite dressed as freedom. Another symptom is a crisis of identity. When religion, family roles, and community ties weaken, we can remake ourselves with a few clicks. But that kind of freedom comes with a cost: 1,000 options and no ground. Choice without centre becomes its own kind of prison. We scroll, we shop, we perform, and we keep asking who we are, only louder. Be honest. Have you ever realised you've been living on autopilot, doing what's expected so cleanly that you no longer remember who did the expecting? That low hum of alienation isn't only personal, it's cultural. We're shaped by a world that rewards being seen over being rooted, that pushes us toward external proof and away from the slow work of building an inner life. Nietzsche's insight is still sharp. In losing inherited values, we gain terrifying freedom. It is a curse if we run from it, and a gift if we accept it. No one is coming to hand us meaning. We're being invited to make it. How do people respond to the void? History offers a few patterns. Some cling more tightly to beliefs that no longer speak to them because the alternative is too frightening. Others trade faith for rigid ideology, looking for the same certainty with different labels. Nietzsche feared where this could lead: resentment, fanaticism, a moral sickness that says no to life. Modern psychology adds its own caution. When meaning goes missing, extremism becomes tempting. We see this in polarization, in the rush to tribal identity, in outrage as an identity. In that way, nihilism isn't just an interior struggle. It radiates outward, shaping conversations, elections, and even the way we imagine our neighbours. And yet, even in the chaos, Nietzsche trusted that renewal was possible. He used the phrase amor fati, love of one's fate, not as a romantic slogan, but as a mindset. It means saying yes to life as it is, not as we wish it had been. It means letting difficulty become raw material for growth rather than fuel for bitterness. This is where transcending nihilism begins, not with denial, not with pretending everything is fine, but with a deeper acceptance that turns pain into power. When you practice amor fati, you aren't agreeing that everything that happens is good. You're agreeing to meet reality with courage and to use it. Think about a challenge you once believed would break you, that somehow made you larger. In the moment, it felt unendurable. Later you realized you would not trade it away, because it became the hinge on which your story turned. If you've lived even a little of that truth, you've felt the edge of what Nietzsche meant. Share a line about it below. Your story might be the thread someone else needs to pick up. Now, about that misunderstood word, Übermensch. Nietzsche never meant a bully or a conqueror or a perfect specimen. He meant a different kind of human, someone who refuses to outsource their soul. The Übermensch doesn't wait for society, religion, or fate to define a life and then try to squeeze into it. They accept the frightening freedom of authorship. That's why the idea is both empowering and unsettling. Empowering, because it insists your life is not a sentence to serve, but a task to take up. Unsettling, because once you grasp that, the excuses begin to evaporate. If there is no higher authority writing your script, then the responsibility for your choices, your failures, and your triumphs lands squarely in your hands. That weight scares people. It also transforms them. Carl Jung offered a compliment to this vision. If we refuse the work of consciously shaping meaning, he warned, the unconscious will do it for us. The parts of ourselves we ignore, fears, cravings, resentments, don't disappear, they go underground. Jung called this the shadow. When the shadow leaks, it can look like self-sabotage, rage, addiction, or a compulsion to blame. You can see it all around us. People trapped in routines that starve them, medicating themselves with distraction, substances, or the sugar rush of controversy. People who would rather be angry than responsible because anger feels like energy. The alternative is harder and cleaner, to become the architect of your own meaning, brick by brick, day by day. How do you do that in a world tuned for noise? Nietzsche's writings suggest 3 stances. Question the values you inherited and be willing to release the ones that smother life. Learn to tolerate uncertainty and discomfort without escaping into illusions, and actively shape the arc of your days so your choices add up to something you would be proud to name. Amor fati helps here, not as passive acceptance, but as a fierce consent to reality. It's the practice of using what is, loss included, to become more whole. Imagine what would shift if you treated hardship as clay instead of concrete. If, instead of resenting the weight, you asked how to build muscle beneath it. If you've ever walked through something you thought would end you and discovered a stronger self on the other side, then you've already had a taste of this. The work is not merely personal either. Nietzsche believed that if enough individuals learn to create values that affirm life, culture itself could evolve past despair. Renewal doesn't begin in a legislature. It begins in your kitchen, in your calendar, in the way you speak to the people you love. It begins when you stop living as a copy and start living as an original. None of this is easy. It requires a ruthless kindness with yourself, a willingness to tell the truth about your contradictions, to meet your shadows, to drop the performative versions of you that win applause but cost you your center. Nietzsche once described his work as philosophy with a hammer, not to smash for the sake of smashing, but to tap idols and hear which ones ring hollow. That hammer is a tool of honesty. Used well, it doesn't destroy your life. It clears space to build one. All of this brings us to Nietzsche's most demanding and liberating idea, eternal recurrence. It sounds abstract. It isn't. Think of it as a thought experiment that doubles as a moral test. Imagine that a messenger came to you tonight and whispered a strange truth. You will live this life again. Not a different life. This one. Every joy and every mistake, every word you spoke in tenderness and every silence you regret, every triumph and every heartbreak. Nothing edited, no skips. You will live it again and again across a span of time too large to picture. Your first reaction might be horror. Who would choose to relive failure and grief? Nietzsche didn't offer this as punishment. He offered it as a mirror. If the thought of living your life over fills you with despair, what would you need to change so that you could say yes to the whole of it? Not a naive yes that denies pain, but a courageous yes that acknowledges pain and keeps going. To affirm eternal recurrence is not to become a masochist of fate. It is to become a lover of life so complete that you're willing to claim even its wounds as part of your work of art. Ask yourself, honestly, if this were true, would you spend your hours differently? Would you waste less time? Would you forgive more quickly? Would you put off fewer conversations that matter? Would you practice the craft that keeps tugging at you? Would you love more intentionally? The power of the question is not in metaphysics. It's in how it rearranges your priorities now. If you had to live this day on repeat, would you be proud of how you handled it? If not, what one small thing can you change today so that tomorrow's answer moves closer to yes? You can hear echoes of this stance in modern practices: mindfulness, acceptance, the discipline of living in the present without either clinging or flinching. Frankl's lesson is similar. We don't always choose our conditions, but we can choose our attitude, and in that choice lies a freedom no one can take. Nietzsche is often misunderstood as a philosopher of despair, but beneath the critique there is a kind of ferocious hope. He believed we could become people who say yes to life, not because it is easy or fair, but because saying yes is how we become fully alive. So where does this leave us in an age saturated with distraction, anxiety and doubt? The spread of nihilism is not a verdict. It's a summons. It pushes us to outgrow second-hand meanings and step into the braver work of authorship. That work doesn't mean inventing fantasies that keep us cozy. It means crafting a life that can bear scrutiny. It means treating your actions as if they matter because they do. It means remembering that even in a world with no single story everyone agrees on, you can still build a story that's true enough to carry you. If you accept that challenge, something shifts. You stop waiting for permission. You stop bargaining with time. You quit outsourcing your soul to algorithms. You become someone. History doesn't just happen to. You become someone who participates in it. That's the power Nietzsche believed we could grow into, not passive subjects of fate, but creators who meet reality with courage and transform it, starting with ourselves. Let me leave you with this. Imagine you're lying down tonight and the whisper comes, you must live this same life again. Would you rejoice or would you despair? Your answer is a compass. It reveals how fully you are living now. If the answer troubles you, that's not failure, it's an invitation. You can begin today in small, practical ways. Choose one thing worth doing and do it well. Tell one truth you've been postponing. Put your phone down for an hour and give your attention to a person you love. Practice amor fati when something goes wrong. Keep promises to yourself even when no one is watching. These are not glamorous, but together they teach your life to say yes. Nihilism may be a defining pressure of our age, but it does not have to be our fate. It can be our turning point. Nietzsche's message isn't hopelessness, it's responsibility braided with possibility. He asks us to face the void without blinking, and to discover that meaning isn't something we find hiding under a rock. It's something we make by the way we live. If that's true, then the era we're entering doesn't have to be an age of exhaustion. It can be an age of creation, of courage, depth, and attention. An age where more and more of us become philosophers in the best sense. Not people who argue for sport, but people who live, question lives, and answer with the shape of our days. If this journey stirred something in you, tell me what part of life you'd choose to affirm, again and again. Share how you plan to live with a little more intention from this moment on. And if you haven't yet, subscribe and be part of this community of people who refuse to sleepwalk through their one life. Because in the end, the meaning of your days is the meaning you dare to give them. Say yes, fully, fiercely, without hesitation, and watch how the void becomes a canvas. We don't survive nihilism, we transcend it. And in doing so, we become the kind of humans the future can trust.